I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is Allthemod's Volcano Block. Now today we're going to be getting into an interesting mod. Yeah, definitely an interesting mod. It is a power mod, but in this particular pack, it's used as a crafting mod. I know. Let's talk about the Powah mod. Now, in my opinion, Powah is all about automation. It is. The whole thing is built basically in order for you to automate to the next tier, and then automate that tier and keep going as you get to the last potential tier. And in that potential tier, you'll be generating a ton of power along the way. Now, in my current gameplay, I don't really need a lot of the power. What I actually need is access to the highest tier power providers, these energizing rods, and also the power cables, so that way we can send power very quickly into our energizing orb. And the reason why we need to do this is because we need to definitely get this started now, and that is the production of the Allthemodium alloy blocks. And to be able to produce these alloy blocks, we actually need to send it Allthemodium blocks, unobtainium blocks, and it's going to cost us like 8 billion FE per block needed. And if you haven't seen the star, well, as you can see, it requires a lot of these blocks. Thankfully, it only requires 2 of these awakened, but we're still going to get them done. Now, this shouldn't be a huge problem. 8 billion RF sounds like a whole lot, but in reality, it's honestly not that much. The only thing that really limits us is the transfer rate of the Powah mod itself. So that is going to be the biggest hassle, is trying to get that transfer rate up so we can get mass power sent to this energizing orb. Now, of course, we still have to automate all of the prior tiers so that way we can at least jumpstart our production. And I kind of want to show you what is, in my opinion, one of the best ways of automating the energizing orb early on. Now, of course, first things first is you're going to want to automate all of the basic components that you need in order to craft most of the things from that mod. So I have all of that done, and now we can actually go in and search up Powah, and I'm going to need a energizing orb. So of course I can go ahead and craft that. This will be one of the first things. It looks like I did not make a pattern for the one thing that I intended to make a pattern for, which was this thing right here, the dielectric casing. By the way, the paste is actually not too bad to make. You just use regular coal, looks like some blaze powder, and some clay, and you're good. You could use lava buckets. It does produce a bit more that way, but in my case, I have plenty of blaze powder, so that's what I'm going to use. All right, so energizing orb. I can just go ahead and get this crafted up. You're going to want to autocraft almost everything that is possible to be autocrafted in this mod, because otherwise you're going to be sitting here handcrafting step by step, because it is just craft after craft. It uses like the prior thing you crafted for the next tier, and so on and so forth. Recursive crafting is what I like to call it. And yeah, it does get kind of boring. So you definitely want to, yeah, you want to automate it. Now, one other tip with the automation for this, a lot of the ingredients outside of the base ingredients, you're going to want to have the substitutions enabled. Otherwise, you are going to have a hard time crafting new things. For example, this energizing starter, this is perfectly fine to have enabled. With this, you wouldn't actually have to have the substitutions enabled, because this is the first craft. But for every other energizing orb or rod after that, you're probably going to want to have substitutions enabled. So that way, when this thing fills up with power, it can actually use it for its craft instead of making a whole new set going all the way up to max tier. So there I go. All of these things I went ahead and auto crafted. It is a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. This is a lot of stuff to auto craft, but I have each tier, even without having the items, which is super handy. I'm able to go ahead and get most of these things set on autocraft. So as we start to get these resources, we can then start immediately putting them to good use. So that is 100% what is about to take place. And this just makes it so much easier. Now back to fully automating the energizing orb. And I think one of the best ways of doing this is going to be just using the ME provider, but we're gonna need to do it in a very special way. Now the energizing orb has a very weird way of working compared to most inventories. Basically, the inventory itself, even though the items required may only be like 1 or 2 of each item, it'll let you continuously start putting the items in. And we don't necessarily want that to happen. So let's go ahead and set this up. I'm going to place myself down a provider, and I'm going to place the energizing orb. We can actually set this up. I think that would actually, no, I need to set it up differently. The bottom of this is an output, and it doesn't automatically output. Let me just add a cable here so I can get it placed in. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to send the output into this, but this also needs to receive the items from our pattern provider. Now, for example, let's do iron and gold. This is the first thing we're going to be working with in this mod. And we can actually get a really good visual of this with a hopper. So the output, believe it or not, it will not output what's going directly in. So it'll wait. It does have like a separate inventory that outputs can be pulled from. But to be put into, you can actually over insert. So notice I can keep putting these in, but the recipe doesn't actually require more than this. And it'll actually stop the recipe from working. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you only put one of these items in a piece. For example, we're going to be making ourselves the energized steel, which this recipe requires this. You can also do it in block form. And even in this pack, you can do it in compressed block form, which is even crazier. But yes, this right here will work. And if I was to give this some power by simply placing these down, this is going to automatically start sending power because it's stored a little bit. But if we place this back here, now this is receiving power and is starting to craft this. So as soon as this crafts, it then goes into this hopper, producing some blocks here. Like I said, I want to get this automated in just sending it in. And the cool part is this can actually be locked. So we can go ahead and lock this and say lock crafting until primary crafting result is returned. And so any pattern that we put in here, it's only going to send the enough items in order for it to do the craft. And then it is going to need to send it back here. So I think I'm going to use modular routers in order to do this. Because we can use a modular router, which I know I've used them a lot in this series, but they're just so powerful. What we can do is we can have it automatically pull with a puller upgrade. Just a basic puller, MK1. Make sure it's pulling from the top. And so that's going to pull the items into the buffer. And then we need a sender module that is an MK2. And the sender is going to send to this block, which will then insert it back into the network. And so we'll just make sure that that is sent there. And this should 100% work. So let's go to make ourselves a pattern. And we'll say a block of energizing steel for right now. And we can go ahead and craft this. I'm going to show how this will work. But for right now, this is how I'm going to be making this. I don't think we're going to be sticking with these because we can actually convert these into seeds. But for the example here, this will end up making 2 blocks of energized steel. So I'll produce that, put the pattern in here. And we should be able to like request a couple of blocks of energized steel. Let's do 10, right? And so as you can see, it's only going to send the 2 in. Wait till the process is done crafting, and then it'll send the next recipe, making the automation for this so easy. With refined storage, you have to use like a regulator upgrade, and I don't think the crafter will work the way that you would hope it would work. So man, Applied Energistics makes this so much easier, in my opinion. And so the idea behind this is that we're going to be able to use this same setup once we've upgraded to each tier. We're going to be able to use this setup for automating the production of the alloys here. And we could just simply pull it out of our crafter and have these ingredients ready to go, and simply just wait for the craft to process and limit how much power we're sending to this, so it does take a little bit of time and doesn't consume all the power we're generating, and we are good to go. Now, I did mention mystical agriculture a little bit, right? So let's head over to our mystical agriculture setup down here, and I did a little bit of decorating. I think it looks pretty darn cool. And I also got all of these things set up, and I have them now hooked up to a drawer controller. So all the drawers are now connected, and then you also notice this modular router. I am auto crafting now Phyto Grow. The Phyto Grow goes into here, and I'm using distribution modules with a speed upgrade to send it to all of these. All of these now have Phyto Grow, and the way I'm importing is I simply just clicked the back here that's automatically importing the water, And this can actually reach to the back and is sending the phytogrowth through the back of the machine. And so this is working great. And some seeds I've already made is Fluix essence, which was the only way that we could actually gain the Fluix crystals without having to craft them in world. And then I'm also producing a bunch of nether, trying to get that going because we're going to need a lot of soul sand and then a lot of things from the nether. End essence is also another thing that I need to get set up because we're going to need a lot of end stone as well that we can hopefully produce with our seeds. But of course, the big thing that I want to do is I want to convert this energizing steel and all of the other counterparts into seeds as well. And we have the ability to do that. And these things are going to be incredibly powerful to have this done. So yeah, this will be producing like significantly faster and it doesn't use any power. As you can see, each tier of our crystals does have a tier of seeds. So this is going to be great. Let's go ahead and grab some of our Imperium and of course, just plop them in and there we go. Just like so. And before I know it, I'm just going to have a single seed and that's all I need. And the reason why I'm doing this instead of in-world is I have done in-world mystical agriculture growing like over and over again, several times in several packs. And I've never used this method for growing seeds. And I like to, I don't know, maybe you guys like it, I don't know, but I like to show different ways of doing things every time I play a mod pack, even if it's not particularly the best way to do it. But anyways, all I have to do is place this in now and then of course make sure I have that set. And this bad boy is going to start running. Oh man, how slow. Oh, I never put the upgrades in here. I was like, why is it so slow? That is the thing. I have crafted up a ton of these components, wherever they're at in here. There they are. Stellar components. So I have plenty of stellar components. And as you can see, just even on its own, without any of these upgrades, for example, like these flux linkages. By the way, I had to run 2 because I run out of power without a power upgrade. But yeah, even with this is like it's struggling so much, and I had to put 2 in because it just can't handle the power. But still, it's so fast. Like it's so fast, even without them. That's so fast. We already have 25. It generates 3 every process, and this process I believe is faster than using the ones from immersive engineering. So, and those only produce 2, I believe, from your seeds. Yeah, making the garden delicious. Yeah, these only produce 2. So yeah, I think this is pretty darn cool. And this doesn't require any soil or anything like that. Just got that phyto grow going. We get 3 essence per process. And this process technically could be sped up even faster. Now, the next tier in the process is going to require blaze mesh from Botania, apparently. And this is just blaze blocks all combined together. And this requires like one of these blocks. So yet again, this is where that pattern is really going to come into play with that locking feature. And I can just add this into the crafter anywhere and then request a few of these blocks. Let's just do like 5 for right now. Now, this is going to cost more power, and that's where upgrading these really needs to be done at this point. So like once we get our first blaze mesh, I'm probably going to start upgrading these. This needs to go from basic to hardened, but I think we can kind of skip hardened and just go directly to blaze as soon as we have some of this blaze, which is almost done. Yes, there we go. Then we can just go ahead and make that, right? So blaze rod, let's go ahead and just make 1 for now. And it should craft up very quickly. There it is. And yeah, we'll just replace this and place it in. And now the cool part is I want to test this out and make sure it works. Right now we have a basic rod, and if I craft another one, looks like we're missing the steel because I didn't turn it into item form. So steel. Let's go ahead and make the rod. There we go. So we have a rod in storage. Will this use this rod? That's what I was hoping it would do. But we'll have to see. Is it going to do it? It did. As you can see, it is using the rod. This is another thing that refined storage just really struggled with. Man, I am really loving the applied energistics here. Now, making the Nionic and also the Spirited just requires a diamond block and an emerald block, so they're pretty much the same as the other stuff. Now, jumping in, though, into the Nitro, this is where it's a little bit different. We have to craft a Nitro like this, which is going to require the block of blazing. And the way this should work, and also another star, this should prioritize the blazing crystal, try to craft it first because it's required, and then it will have all of the ingredients then to make the craft. So we can't craft this in block form, but we can make ourselves a seed for it, and that makes everything so much better. So I now have basically the spirited tier set up, which is the second from the last. And so we're going to be able to make nitro crystals now. And I'm going to make several of these. I would do blocks. Yeah, let's go ahead and make like over a stack. I think that'll be fine. Let's do 64. I think that'll be a good number. Let's just do 64. As you can see, it's going to need to craft this first, and it should do that. Oh, it actually already has some, so I was hoping to be able to see it do the operation. But there it goes. It makes 16 a piece. We just need some speed upgrades inside of this, and that'll make this go much quicker. There we go. Sends the items in. Oh, I love this. This is great. This is so much easier. This is like one of the easiest ways to autocraft this that I've ever done. As you can see, it had made the prior right before. So yeah, I seen the blaze go in, it immediately crafted it, there it goes, and then it has it to be able to send back. Wow, that does that really fast. That is powerful. So it's now time to start making all of the seeds, and I'll start off with the highest tier first. Why not? This is going to use Insanium in order to craft, but I think that's going to be super worth it because this is already setting at, in just a short period of time, over 800 essence stored. And of course it does cost 8 essence each to make an ingot of it. Over time, that's really going to build up. Now, I know that was a very temporary setup that I had going, but I think I can make this much cleaner looking and completely hide everything, including the actual crafter. So what we can do is we can actually set up the crafter underneath the energizing orb, and I hope that it can still send into the energizing orb. We're going to be able to test that here in a moment. Let's go ahead and first take our cables, and of course I threw the cables inside of my inventory here. Perfect. So yeah, we should be able to hook the cable up. I do want to see and just make sure that it's able to send them in. So let's go ahead and put like one of our basic crafts in, which is going to be this one. Not in there, in here. And then let's see, hardened, right? No, it is energizing. Let's go ahead and request a single block of energizing. And will it put in? It does. Okay, and then it completes, and then it receives it. Okay, perfect. So, good to know that that works. And what I'm going to do is still use the modular router. However, I'm going to use the modular router down here. And the polar upgrade is going to work a little bit differently. We're actually going to need to change the sender module. The sender module can go in here, and we can just send the ingredients into this as if it's being hoppered. So the sender is fine. However, we are going to need a puller that is the wireless version, which is the Puller MK2. And so this should be able to technically pull from the bottom of this machine. However, I want to make sure that it does technically pull from the bottom. So I'm going to select the bottom when we have to be standing on something, unfortunately. With modular routers, I still don't understand why that's a thing, but it is. So there we go. It's pulling from the bottom, and this will make this so much cleaner looking. If we get this put in, and then last but not least, we make sure to put our pattern provider back. Make sure it is set to until primary crafting result is returned, and I think we're ready to start putting all of our components back in here. So this will go in. I want to try and put them in order, even though I don't necessarily think that matters, but you never know. And then, of course, spirited, no, the nitro. And then I've already made the patterns up here, and these do have prerequisite crafting operations that have to happen. But I guess what I can do is I can kind of see how much power we're going to send to this. And I'm going to get this cleaned up and wrapped around. This just gets a cable cover. And look how nice and clean this is going to be. Once all of the concrete's in, this is like right in the center. Oh, this is just going to be perfect. And then we just surround it with the lasers. Now, I did some testing, and there's some weird interactions that are kind of taking place now that I've upgraded this. And put the puller. For some reason, the puller, even though the other ones seem to be working, as it's pulling from the bottom here, acting like a hopper, it's actually for some reason pulling from the input. And that's a little strange for me. So I think what I'm going to have to do is instead, I'm going to have to filter. I don't know why I cleared it. That was kind of a bad thing on my end. But I'm going to go ahead and still have it selected, select the bottom. But instead, I'm going to have to kind of work with it a little bit here. Do I have the shrink mod? Let me just make the shrink. There we go. Perfect. Makes it so much easier. I'm going to set this to the bottom again. But yeah, I'm going to have to go in here and whitelist all of the individual components that we're going to be crafting, and to make sure that it only pulls out those items. So perfect. There we go. I have all of the items put in here, and these are of course set to whitelist. And now I should be able to craft. I was just trying to craft a rod, and for some reason it was just pulling everything out, and that just wasn't what it should be doing, or it's not the expected behavior that I would think this would do. So back to another rod, and let's try to craft another nitro rod. And as you can see, it does have the components, and there it goes. Okay. So it is waiting for the craft to happen, and it does appear that it just, oh, the locking mode is not on here. Goodness. There's the locking. I forgot to reset the locking mode. Every time you break the machine, it doesn't like hold its like information, which is kind of unfortunate. So I'll go and cancel that again, and then we'll craft another rod. This time it should. Okay, or not. There's so many different things going on right now, and I'm so confused because it should be handling everything the same way as it did before. Okay, there it goes. It just sent. Weird that it took a little bit of time there. And now it's still holding, for some reason, looking for a block of nitro crystal. I don't understand why it's not sending the items. So after doing some extensive testing, I will say this. This pattern provider does not like to be on the bottom of the energizing orb. It does not work properly for some reason. And it starts to cause some weird issues with the pattern provider staying locked up and never seeming like it's receiving its ingredients for some reason. I don't know why that is. That's a very weird thing. Now I'm almost positive I can make this smaller, but I'm kind of going to just leave it, I think, like this. It doesn't look horrible set up in this way. And I'm still using this. I just went ahead and used the Cinder MK2 to make sure that it's receiving from the bottom here. But it is working now, and I guess that's really all that matters. I needed some more rods because I wanted to evenly distribute all of this. These are supposed to be able to send out 200,000 FE per tick. So keep that in mind. And I think the cable output rate is 1 million. So on this cable, it can only ever send 1 million per tick. So I guess our problem would be, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We technically have over what it can transfer because only 10 of them technically would work. So we can do the 9 sides, I guess, is fine, and just pop off 2 of them, because at the moment we have no need for that many, because our cables can't send that much. Now, the only way to stretch this out would be have separate lines of cables, and then you would need, to be able to send more power, we would need, sorry, these are 200,000 they support. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So really all of these are like super unnecessary, right? So yeah, so we can get away with this. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate the lines, and I'm going to have separate points on each side, because it does appear that we can only support up to 5 of these per cable line. So basically with this setup, we should be able to send 4 million RF per tick into any operation that's going on right here with this current setup. And I think it could be made a little bit smaller as well, as we can put these on the sides and stuff like that. So, but just keep in mind that on the nitro cables, maximum of 5 of these nitro rods per cable to be able to maximize the amount of power throughput that these support. So let's go ahead and request our first Allthemodium alloy block. So this is going to be interesting because I do have the auto crafts ready to go to be able to craft those blocks. Let's see. How was it set up? Oh yeah, this should be at the very bottom, right? So there's those components. And yeah, I think we do alloy. Yeah, and they show up. Okay, so we'll craft our first one. And it shows up in there. And now we can start to see how long this is going to take. And to be fair, it's not that bad. It is sending 4 million RF per tick. You can see that by this is maximizing at 1 million. Make sure your bypass is on. And it is going like it's supposed to. So exactly 1 million. And it's going to take a little bit of time. And we're going to need quite a few of these. So if I was to do the request, I would just go ahead and request them up. And just kind of sit back and start working on some other projects while you wait for all of these to do their thing. So inside of this craft, there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's 30, so 28 of these unobtainium or unobtainable, sorry, unobtainium Allthemodium alloy blocks. I believe 28 of them, I think, is what it looks like. And I think it even tells us inside of the quests here. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, 28 of them. So I was right. And then 2 awakened for the Allthemodium star. Pretty darn cool. Or Allthemodium star. So this is just one craft for this. So I'll go ahead and I will get the 27 that are required queued up and ready to go. So just while I was waiting here, I decided I was going to build like just a little bit of a thing on the outside of this to kind of represent going from the nitro, of course, going into the spirited and ionic blazing, of course, all the way into this, which I use concrete for the energized steel. I think it looks pretty darn cool. I don't know, it looks like a target, but yeah, it does represent kind of what Powah is. And its main crafting apparatus, as we're not really going to need to make generators or anything like that. However, to kind of wrap things up as this is working, as we've already got 7 of them, this is going to go way faster than I thought it was going to go. We can go ahead and look at the other thing that is required. And if I remember correctly, it's one of these. One of these things requires you to make, I don't remember which one though. You're going to need the nitro batteries, and they need to be fully charged. So I'm looking through here and I don't see the ingredient. Oh, I'm also going to need a nitro player transmitter. And so I'll just get the auto crafting set up for that. This allows you to wirelessly charge yourself from within the Powah mod. But I knew there was something else. So let's just look. So if I go to Powah, this right here, yeah, it's used for this. So the importable probability device, probability device, this does require it. And as you can see right here, it does need to be fully charged, and they do take up 2 billion FE a piece when charged. So we're going to need that for this ultimate item here. Now I should be able to get all of that done once this all is crafted up. As you can see right here, it's just going to take some time. I'm also going to go ahead and request the vibranium. One. We can go ahead and request 2 of those to start once this finishes. And once all is said and done, guys, we are getting very close to crafting the Allthemodium star. I think the only mod left to kind of get into, aside from this, is going to be pneumatic craft, which is going to be basically required in order to craft up some of the items. So guys, with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully you'll learn something new about Powah and how to automate it. I honestly wish this setup could be a bit cleaner, but as I tried to clean it up, as you've seen, there was some weird things and interactions happening with it. Unfortunately, out of my control. I probably could have it sent to the machines and then have the machines send the items out. It would get kind of convoluted, and I think this just works. And sometimes it is, as long as it works, it works, right? So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you've been enjoying thus far, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already checked, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a video when they come out, as they do come out daily. It's easy to get kind of lost. So thank you so much. Click that like button if you did enjoy. And now it's time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go to Med. Thank you so much for supporting over on the Discord and becoming a Discord premium member. And of course, supporting in one of the best ways possible. Guys, I thank you so very much. I thank you for watching this series so far, and hopefully you've learned something new and enjoyed this mod pack as much as I have. And I hope to see you in the next episode. And of course, as always, you know how it goes. Thanks for watching. Bye.